Ito ang Intercontinental Broadcasting Corporation. Sa bagong Pilipinas.
Ang susunod na programa ay rated PG. Patnubay at gabay ng magulang ay kailangan sa mga batang manonood.
Good evening. You're watching the Chairman's Report. This program is brought to you by IBC 13 and the Commission of Filipinos Overseas, an agency under the Office of the President mandated to connect the Filipino diaspora with their home country. I am Dante, Klink II, Chairperson of the CFO and your program host. Tonight's guest is a celebrated Filipino with many passions, a true Renaissance man. He is a poet, fictionalist, essayist, independent filmmaker, editor, and publisher. Mr. Christian Cordero, more fondly known to us as KC, a pride of Bicol Region's Naga City, recognized with the Writer's Prize for Bicol Poetry from the National Commission for the Culture and Arts. His independent bookshop, Savage Mind, Arts, Books, Cinema, and his accompanying art space, Camarin, have been widely recognized as important cultural hubs, spaces that foster creativity, intellectual dialogue, and community engagement. Christian is the author of 7 poetry anthologies written in Filipino, Bicol, and Rinconada. Among his most acclaimed works are Canticos, Apat na Voces, or Canticles, 4 Voices, published in 2013, and Labi, or Remains, in 2013. Both received the National Book Awards for Poetry in Filipino and Bicol in 2014. In addition to his original writings, Christian is an accomplished translator who has brought the works of major world authors into Bicol and Filipino, thereby expanding access to global literature for local readers. Christian's own literary works have also reached international audiences. His poetry has been translated into German, Spanish, and Czech, appearing in literary publications such as the Círculo de Poesía in Mexico and works published by Malvern Publishing House in Prague. Through his multifaceted career, he continues to shape the landscape of regional literature and cultural development in the Philippines. Christian Cordero, welcome to the Chairman's Report. Thank you for making time. So, before we dive into it, maybe introduce our audience to Savage Mind and what can we find there in this unique art space that you set up?
The bookshop was established in 2018 after my writing residency in the US. I was so inspired by the fact that I was always in a bookshop in Iowa, in Michigan, and in Alaska. And then upon return, I thought of putting up the same thing because I think it's important that for a city like Naga, which claims to be a center of good governance, among other things, it has to have a cultural site as well. So I thought of putting up Savage Mind, and we've been experiencing a lot of challenges since 2018, starting during the pandemic, and then the Great Flood in 2024, and then now we have returned with more lessons learned, and yeah, it's an independent bookshop located in a street called Peninsula in Naga. The location is an ancestral house of the Lirags. It's a 50-year-old house which we converted into an art space. So there are 3 components, 3 parts of the space. You have the bookshop, you have the cafe, it's called Tugawiko Cafe, and then the art space, which is called Camarin, which is Camarin. The provenance of the name of the province of Camarines Sur is Camarin.
I see. I never made that connection. Okay.
Like Camarin is the Spanish word for rice granary. So we want to make this place as a new Camarine, as a place like a marketplace of ideas where you turn your ideas, where ideas are cultivated like seeds that needs to be nourished, that needs to be taken care of so that it will grow. So that's what Savage Mind is. That's what Camarine stands for.
Now, have you always had that plan to set up this creative space? You should work with Ateneo de Naga
Yes.
Publishing for a while as well, right?
Yes. I was the deputy and then the university press director for a good number of years, 10 years, isang dekada sa Ateneo de Naga. And I think my position in Ateneo de Naga has given me that opportunity to see that books should really have a life of its own, and it should not be contained into specific places like the universities. So I thought of like this term now that we often use, the third space. I think of finding another space aside from the academe, aside from the campus. I think our books should be like seeds, should be scattered to the field so that it will grow on its own. And with my experience as deputy director and eventually as director of the press, we thought of expanding the reach of our books by putting up an independent bookshop. So I would say it complemented my position as university press director, and at the same time as some kind of a curator where even people, even students and faculty who are not connected to Ateneo can have access with our books, because we are not just writing for Ateneo. We are more than that. And so and Naga is an educational center for the region. It has several universities. Ateneo for one, you have Universidad de Santa Isabel, the first normal school for women in this part of the world. You have the seminary where I studied. It's the Holy Rosary Minor Seminary. Used to be the next school that you will find better outside Manila. So we were producing some church dignitaries and heroes, propagandists like Jose Maria Panginiban. So Naga is at the epicenter of these things, and I am what I would say an inheritor of this humble history. So I thought of continuing this legacy of the city by putting up.
Well, thank you for that. I think what fascinates me is that, of course, in my new role at CFO, we're trying to, in some cases, reintroduce Filipino culture and heritage to the next or younger generations of Filipinos in the diaspora. And so when we look to connect with them, of course, what comes to mind is Filipino literature, those mainly in English, translated into English, such as Jose Rizal's works, and maybe even the Makata, the Tagalog literature. But some of them may be surprised to know that there's a rich selection of other literature in other Filipino languages, just Bicol, that you are working on. And maybe tell us, I mean, for those who are not familiar, introduce Bicol literature to people.
Yeah, I always remember this particular period in 1897, when the revolution broke in Manila. Interestingly, that was the first time the printing press from Hong Kong was brought to Naga.
Really?
We have a revolution in the capital,
I see.
and the printing press arrived in Naga. And for the critic, Dr. Maria Lilia Lupit, this marks a significant period, not just in our local history, but in the history of this country. And I go back to 1897 to relive this particular period of the revolution and the coming of the printing press. And that period of 1897 really signaled the golden age of Bicol literature. That's according to the professor, Professor Lupit. And of course, it's a church-based printing press, and eventually it got secularized through the printing press owned by Mariano Perfecto, and then you have Cecilio Press. So when we think of regional literature, we think of not only the contemporary. It's important for us to return to our history, return to our sources, return to our beginnings. And Bicol literature, just like other regional literature, has this rich history of coming into thought through their local languages. And I think that's true to all other local languages in the Philippines. We can think, we can write, we can speak our minds and our hearts through our local languages. And Bicol has been given this opportunity, this language. And the region is home to other linguistic variations. You mentioned Rinconada. I also write in that language.
I learned something new today.
Yes. So that's my mother tongue. I share that language with the national artist for Cinema, Nora Honor. I had the privilege of working with her also in a film where we use Rinconada and other Bicol languages.
I see.
So, yeah. So.
And so Savage Mind has become the hub for all of this, or is that a fair representation?
One of the hubs.
Okay.
I don't want to be. I'm always worried, Chair, about being the center.
Okay.
There's so many centers here.
Okay. Which is good, right?
Which is good. I'm very worried of the center, of the idea of the center. I'd rather be seen as one of the many interesting hubs in Naga. In fact, the bookshop is not just it's not just the bookshop that you will find in the whole country. We have other spaces like Mount Cloud in Baguio, Poon in La Union. Everything is fine in Makati. You have Solidaridad by the national artist Evgeny Jose. You have the Lost Bookshop in Cebu. So a lot of creative spaces happening now in the Philippines.
And hopefully with our partnership, which we're still working on, that maybe CFO can help you propagate that Bicol literature and the other creatives that you're working with to our Filipino diaspora. We just have to take a quick break.
Yes.
We'll be right back with the Chairman's Report. Please stay.
Napaka-importante ng katotohanan dahil ito yung pundasyon na magdedetermina sa tiwalang ibibigay ng publiko sa iyo. At sa tiwalang yun, gamit ang katotohanan na meron ka upang ibigay para sa kanila, doon mo sila mabibigyan ng informed decision at mapangalagaan yung demokrasya ng ating pamayanan na tinatamasa natin hanggang ngayon.
Truth is essential to progress. Kapag pinapahalagahan natin ang katotohanan, nare-resolba natin ang mga problema at nahahanap natin ang tamang solusyon.
You know, we have all versions or different versions of truth. But one thing is for sure to me, ang truth ay dapat may matibay na pinagbabasehan, na pinanggalingan.
They're cute, talented, and oozing with confidence. Kantahan, sayawan, modeling, at storytelling. Nangunguna ang mga batang bibo. Talents Academy, tuwing Sabado, alas 4:30 ng hapon sa IBC 13.
Back to the Chairman's Report. I'm Dante Christian Cordero. We were talking about the rich literary community in Bicol. We haven't even touched Waray for that matter, but the more notable writers there, and this I discovered this. This will, I think, reveal my ignorance of literature. You introduced me to Luis Cavalquinto when I visited your place a couple of years ago. Is he the most notable writer from the region? And maybe, again, let's tell the world about
I would consider him as one of our titans. Luis Cavalquinto is called to be the dean of Bicol poetry. He started writing during his early years in Ateneo, and then he moved to the US where he got to befriend other notable Filipino artists like the painter Venancio Icarta, national artist for literature Jose Garcia Villa. They were in one circle, and Luis Cabalquito is from Magarao in Camarines Sur. It's 5 to 6 kilometers away from Naga. And yeah, I mean, I met him in 2012 in New York, and I had that opportunity of being considered as his friend. And eventually, Savage Mind, when we put up Savage Mind, he entrusted to us his archival materials, which sadly some got lost during the flooding. But now, good that before the flooding we started digitalizing some of the materials, but we just had enormous materials of Luis Cabalquinto, his manuscripts, his drafts, his letters, his photographs. All those are being recovered at the moment. And Cabalquinto's work, one of his poems, is included in American textbooks.
In American textbooks. Wow.
In American textbooks, and the poem is about Magarao, about his hometown. And we dedicated one room in the bookshop to him. It's our Cabalquinto room, where you will find books of poetry and books on cats, because like me, he's also into
That's
cats.
your common interest.
Common interest, cats. In fact, there's a poem there about a cat, a haiku of Cabalquinto, like a cat on my chest, and then a book of Zen poems, two kinds of breathing. That's the image.
Interesting.
Kung humihinga ang pusa, humihinga ang tula sa aking dibdib.
Wow.
Sen lang yun. At magaling si Cabalquinto sa...
Did he write in Bicol?
Yeah. He writes in Bicol. In fact, he's very active in Facebook right now. He's doing some Bicol translation of some of the American poets that he knows, like Jacques Gilbert. And then he was also under Galway Kinnell and some other American teachers who inspired him. The thing about Cabalquinto is he is based in New York. He writes about his experience in New York, but he connects himself immensely to Magarao, to his hometown in the Philippines. And finding yourself parallel to this kind of world, whether you are in Magarao or you are traveling somewhere in China, as he would say in one of his poems, or walking in the streets of New York, you would always see the same kind of moon. The same kind of moon.
How poetic.
How poetic. Like the moon in New York is also the moon in Magarao. And this kind of beauty will always be invoked by Cabalquinto.
And you said his works are in American textbooks. I mean, now I may be ignorant of this as well. Do we have him in our textbooks, or?
I think some of our textbooks used to feature his works. But yeah, I've seen those textbooks. It gives me a singular pride to see these works of Cabalquinto, this poem about Magarao, about this hometown known for hilot in Bicol. And then you have Cabalquinto, you have Jorge Luis Borges, you have all the great names of world literature, and then here comes a poet.
So for somebody who's trying to learn more about this regional creative output, where did they begin? What would you recommend? They start, and where can they buy their stuff? I mean, is his works available on Amazon, for instance, or do they go to your Savage Mind website?
They have to go to our Facebook page.
Okay.
We're releasing his collected poems.
Okay.
We hope to have it ready by April.
Okay.
Next month, in time for the National Literature Month. So it's a collection of Luis Cabalquinto's works in 3 languages. You have English, you have Filipino, and you have Bicol, of course. So I think it's a good start to introduce oneself to Bicol literature, because I think it's important that when we talk of local literature, we do not
contain it to its specific geography.
Okay.
We have to embrace that once you are writing not just for your community, you are
Right.
writing for the world.
Right.
And it's tragic if we only limit Bicol to Bicol.
Right.
No, so that's why we are also empowering ourselves to do more translation, vice versa.
Right.
Like the way to do it is to have our works translated
Right.
into other languages, and these works from other parts of the world should also be translated into our local language, so that it doesn't get contained to the same imagery of Mayon Volcano,
Yes.
of Peña Francia, of Sili and
Pili
Pili
nuts.
nuts. And
It's more than that, yeah.
it's more than that. I think the Philippines is more than mangoes and videokes.
Yeah, but you know the interesting thing I noticed when I visited your place was that there were a number of young writers, both those writing in Bicol and some writing in Waray. In your place at in Naga. Tell us about this I don't know what if I can call it underground, because many of them were only self-publishing, and I thought it would be a shame if the bigger publishers in Manila or outside of Manila, maybe those we met at the Frankfurt Book Fair, you know, should be connected to this creative group.
Yeah.
Tell us about the young emerging creators.
Well, we have what we call the Southern Literary Corridor. This is an idea espoused by the poet Merlia Luna. Merlia is based in Tacloban. She's like a literary mother to many Waray writers, and even writers from West Visayas, Central Visayas, would invoke Merlia as an important literary figure. I hope she becomes national artist for literature soon. She has that considerable efforts in terms of documenting, archiving Visayan literature. And the Southern Literary Corridor, she espoused this idea, she introduced this idea to us to create a new kind of consortium that will link our islands to another island. So Bicol for many years we've always looked at Manila as our lighthouse. With Maria Lunan, she and I agree that we have to see other points of connection.
Of course, yes.
We're very near Waray, but we're very far from Waray. So the Bicol Book Festival is a way to bring Bicol and Waray writers to come together and talk about our poetics.
I see.
And we are not lacking writers who speak about cross-regional connections. So that's one thing that we are doing in the bookshop right now. So we are doing connections with Waray, we are doing with Kapampangan because my father is sa Kapampangan. So ang lakas-lakas ng mga rehiyon, oras na para magtulong-tulungan tayo.
Yeah.
And sa Bicol, I would say that there are two emerging novelists who have won national book awards. They're from the island of Catanduanes.
Okay.
The names are Eman Barameda and Nap Arcilia.
Okay.
They write in Filipino. They are public school teachers. They have novels coming very soon.
Okay.
One is about pigs, baboy.
Okay.
And Nap wrote about kambing.
Okay.
So we're doing a launch of Baboy at Kambing in April. And their fiction talks about certain kind of practices unique in Catanduanes.
Yes. Wow.
But writing in Filipino, so the imagination of Filipino is not just contained in the Tagalog region. It has grown into a lingua franca, national language, I would say so.
Now, would you say that maybe it's worthwhile for government to support not just literature written in Filipino but also in the other languages? Is it worthwhile? Are there enough material there?
Of course.
To
Of course, there are already mechanisms. We cannot discount the fact that NCCA has been doing a lot of efforts, KWF, the National Book Development Board, the NBA has, every year it recognizes books in regional languages. So we have already the mechanisms, but we want more. We want to, we need to invest more, and really it's time now with the social media in the and AI in the background.
Now you have also CFO, and we'll love to help you
Yes, of course.
get the word out to the global Filipino diaspora that there are these works
Yes,
that they can look at.
definitely. In fact, one of the I should say this, Chair, that one of the many supporters of the bookshop and local literature are the second and third generation Filipinos living abroad.
Wow.
When they come to me, I know I have a sale for a day. I know when there's a film or other source
Yeah.
of Filipino.
I have
touch.
some questions about that, but first I have just to take a quick break. Hold that thought, Christian. You're watching the Chairman's Report. Please stay with us.
Bagong Pilipinas. Mahalaga ang kapakanan ng bawat isa. Lahat ng aspeto ng lipunan pinagtutuunan ng pansin ng pamahalaan at ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Bagong Pilipinas, PBBM, Lingkod ng Bayan. Tuwing Linggo, alas 8:30 ng umaga.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Report. I'm Dante to Christian Cordero. We were talking about these, I don't know if you call it balikbayan, but the members of the diaspora come and visit and are curious about the places where their parents or grandparents came from. Interestingly, you've been working with a couple of embassies here in the Philippines, the Czech embassy and more recently with the Hungarian embassy, on translating their literature, some poetry, into Philippine languages. Tagalog, also Filipino, but also to Bicol.
Yes.
Tell us about those initiatives and why are they important?
We started with this project in 2016 with the Czech embassy. At that time, they had Jaroslav Olsha,
Yes.
who is
Very active ambassador.
very active until now. What he's doing, he has a template, he has a template for all this cultural diplomacy, and I think it was him who really initiated this kind of collaboration, not just with people but with other Manila-based publishers doing translation. So it started there in 2016. We did Kafka, and then Karel Čapek, the one who introduced the word robot to the world, and then he invited other European ambassadors to consider doing cultural diplomacy. So we did an anthology of several stories on hope, love, and faith, hope, and love.
Wonderful.
And this was participated by several embassies. And now we've done with projects with the Hungarian embassy, translating.
You have 2 volumes now.
Yes. The second edition of Hindi Pa Sisilang Pagsibol. It's part of the 75th diplomatic anniversary of the Philippines and Hungary. So we're not just talking about economics.
Sure.
We're also talking about culture, and culture remains a vital part of any kind of relationship. So yeah, we hope to invite more embassies to join us in this kind of endeavor. Like right now, we're doing talks with the Belgian embassy in the Philippines, and we also want to link up with the Irish embassy because of the deep connection with Catholicism and literature and Ireland and whiskey, maybe. So yeah, it's important that we bring these works these foreign works to our languages so that our sense of the world gets expanded. You see, we have to, as literature, as poets, as filmmakers, our goal is to expand the limits of our language. Expanding the limits of our language is pushing for a vision. And I see that in this kind of translation practice. Their works to our languages and our works to their languages, which was supported by the Philippine participation in the Frankfurt Book Fair.
You mentioned that this is good from their perspective as part of their cultural diplomacy initiatives. But I was noting that, for Filipinos who were products of intermarriage, say in Czech or in Hungary, this is a way for them maybe perhaps to get an introduction to the Philippines through literature that they are familiar with in their home countries now, right? Do you see it that way as well? I mean, that there can be also a flow back, I suppose.
I would say that's one of the gains. The many important gains when you do translation. They always say that there's always we will always lose something in translation.
Sure.
Something is compromised, something is negotiated. That's fine, but
We could say
because
say
there's
that
always
about
a gain.
Noli and Philly.
Exactly. And I think the more important part of doing translation is the ethical dimension of it. When we do more translation, when we do read more writings outside of our comfort zone, our sense of the author gets deepened. And that is very important in our age today, that we have to have more sense of generosity, more sense of experiencing the other as a possible, as a potential friend. So I think literature can still bring us to that table where everyone talks, where everyone relishes each other's culture.
It's interesting. You see things from a very philosophical perspective. I see things from a very economic perspective. But in my mind, I see opportunities also for Filipinos who learn European languages or other foreign languages, have new opportunities also to earn from those skills, diba? And then not simply for maybe learning it for learning's sake, or maybe for acquiring a language because you're thinking about migrating to another country, but also it's creating opportunities here. I mean, would that be? I know many people, many of our friends would probably frown at that economic appreciation.
That's fine. I mean, we need to talk about economics as well. I have to clarify this, that we do translation from English, not from the original Hungarian or original German. So it's a call for the next Filipinas to relearn or learn other local languages in the Philippines, improve your Filipino, improve your
But
Bicol.
that's precisely my point, because I mean, you have this diaspora who grew up with a foreign language and probably want to connect with the Philippines somehow, and maybe this is one way for them to do that, right? That our next generation of Filipinos abroad can be our, maybe some of them, our new translators, perhaps,
Exactly.
to introduce our literature to the world.
Yeah.
And there's to us.
Yeah, that's a potential space where people can cultivate it as an economic field.
So speaking of economics, so tell us, where can people find, or what publications are available through these partnerships? And then you mentioned the title of the Hungarian collaboration. What are the other works available? Where can they get them?
Well, right now we don't have other business like what we call this platforms, except for our social media accounts. So visit our Facebook page, Savage Mind Bicol. We're in Facebook and Instagram, and just message us and we will reply to you as soon as we can. And I mean, it remains to be a potential field that we need to cultivate. Literature is always like a terrain that needs to be illumined.
Now, are there other works in the pipeline? I mean, you alluded to discussions with the Belgian embassy. I mean,
Yes,
what are we going to see in the future? Is it poetry? Is it novel? Is it a mix or?
Maybe we're trying to enter into more collaboration in terms of putting arts and sciences together. Like we don't just romanticize the coming of springtime. We need to talk about climate change.
Okay.
We need to talk about water waste management, and that is where artists, policymakers, scientists should be doing the talks. And Camarine and Savage Mai is doing that. This is now in our pipeline.
So as Cavalcato's walking over the moons, over different countries, you're working on other important areas. That's interesting.
Yes. So, but we will keep promoting our local languages.
Sure.
The virtue of writing in our local languages. So right now we are doing the Pangalagkalag series. Pangalagkalag is our word for gazing, for searching. But there's a word there, the root word is kalag, which means soul, and in Visayas, it means a container, a vessel. So we're doing one writer writing about one specific town. It's very inspired by Kapal Quinto. So we're doing, we've done towns and cities like Iriga, Tabaco, Bubat is the latest, Lagunoy.
Interesting.
These are towns that are being written about by not by historians, but by their writers, instead of the grand narratives of history of who is the mayor or who is the parish priest.
Sure.
We're doing the more intimate accounts. Who is or where is the first bake shop? When was the first bridge built? So this kind of intimacy is in that Pangalagkalag series, and we are hoping that the Waray writers will join us in this Pangalagkalag also.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned Noro Honor. I mean, are there opportunities for maybe other forms of storytelling, adaptations perhaps, or maybe opportunities now, maybe started by the literary works that also shine the light on other creatives, such as those in maybe film and other areas. What do you think?
I think we really have to develop a dynamic ecosystem where literature and cinema and visual arts and other forms of art making gets into conversation.
Right.
And we must commend FDCP for what they've been doing. And then for some years when I started doing my own kind of cinema from the Bicol region, I was also privileged I had the privilege of participating in what they call the Cinema Region. So you see, Chair, I wanted to become an astronaut as a child.
Okay.
My parents were living abroad, so I thought they were living in outer space. But I couldn't be. I couldn't be an astronaut from a country like us. So parang tinanggap ko na yun.
We have a new Philippine Space Agency.
Meron na. Pero nung 90s, medyo limitado ka sa pagiging pare at pagiging artista. So, yung astronaut kailangan i-shelve mo muna.
Never too late.
So, naging filmmaker ako.
I see.
Yun na yung pinaka malapit kong punto kung saan I find myself saying the word action.
Okay.
And when you say action, there's a certain kind of creation happening there. It's like abracadabra. There's fire. So I think cinema is another way of preserving, of enlivening this language. And we're happy that in Bicol, cinema is developing as well.
We have to take another quick break. Please stay with us. You're watching the Chairman's Report with Christopher Cordero.
Sila ang mga hinalal ng taong bayan upang maisulong ang kaunlaran sa bayan at maiangat ang antas ng kabuhayan ng mamamayang Pilipino. Kasama si Miss Cathy Villar, ating kilalanin ang Senado ng Pilipinas tuwing Linggo alas 9:30 ng umaga.
Nakagat o nakalmot ka na ba ng aso o pusa? Huwag ito basta ipagsawalang bahala dahil ang rabies ay isang nakamamatay na sakit kapag hindi agad na agapan. Ano ang mga dapat gawin kapag nakagat ng aso at nakalmot ng pusa para maiwasan ang nakamamatay na rabies? Ating aalamin.
Nagsisimula na naman ang sunod-sunod na pag-ulan at pagbaha kasabay ng ating pagkabahala sa posibilidad ng pagkakaroon ng leptospirosis. Ano nga ba ang sakit na ito at paano natin ito maiiwasan? Lahat ng yan ay ating hihimayin kasama ang isang medical expert.
At ang inyong mga katanungan sa gamot, ating sasagutin.
Abangan sa Doc Truba ngayong linggo, 7:30 ng umaga. Dito lamang yan sa IBC TV 13.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Report. Christian, you're talking about wanting to be an astronaut because your parents were working abroad, both of them. Huh? Talk about your own migration story. I mean, not you, but your families. Your mother worked in Qatar, if I'm not mistaken. Then your father was a seaman. How did that influence your own career later on as a poet, as a writer, as a creator?
Let me speak in Filipino.
Sure.
At this point because I think marami sa mga bagay na napaka-personal ay lumalalim kapag
Nasa sariling
wika. So I try to speak in Filipino. Akala ko talaga pamilya kami ng mga astronaut kasi nga sa Qatar, I never knew where Qatar was. Hindi ko alam kung nasaan yan except that I was told that my mom is in Qatar. And if you pay attention closely to the sound of the country, Qatar, it sounds like a place in the moon, no? Parang sci-fi movie. So akala ko astronaut.
How old were you?
I was 5.
Wow.
And then we started, I was told by my father at that time to write letters to her. So I was in this kind of world na pwede kang makapagsulat, no? So I was writing letters, not necessarily, I started writing letters.
Doon ba nahubog yung
Exactly. Yun sa tingin ko.
Okay.
So, naging manunulat ako hindi dahil gusto kong magkaroon ng libro ng mga tula. Naging manunulat ako dahil
she wanted to reach out to your mom.
I needed to reach out to my parents. And that's why the postman is my hero.
Okay.
Malaking bagay sa akin ang post office.
Pero, I don't know, I have my own stories about writing letters to my father, but yung sa akin, bumalik with corrections. Yung sa'yo, kinokorek niya yung grammar ko at saka spelling ko.
Well, I have these letters and it's terrible. I'm seeing my grammar and it's terrible. It's in English. So, malaking bagay sa akin yon na natutunan ko ang pagsusulat, ang koneksyon, ang kapangyarihan ng salita sa pamamagitan ng mga liham. And I always take a look at this point in my life na napakahalaga na sa anumang uri ng sulatin ng akda, laging may pikat ng damdamin. The emotional aspect should always be there. The emotional weight. Tinitimbang rin yun. So, yeah, I grew up in that kind of family and I remember it was in the 90s. There was war at time, so we were lahat kami apektado ng gerang yun. And right now, with what is happening in the world,
something flashback.
Oo, ang kapatid ko nasa Abu Dhabi ngayon. So, parang nag-full circle kami lahat na ganito talaga ang buhay ng isang Filipino, no? Na kalat tayo. We are pangatlo na ba tayo sa diaspora?
I think the second or third. Yeah, the second, I think.
Nagkalat na tayo sa
China, India, then probably Philippines.
When there is a world issue, we cannot not be involved.
Right.
We are at the vortex. So, ito yung mga realization ko at nakikita ko kung paano yung panitikan, yung savage mind, yung yung involvement natin sa kultura at sa sining ay bahagi din ng proseso ng kung ano bang agenda ang kailangan nating isulong. Like is peace still possible? Yung mga ganong hard questions.
Sure.
So, yun yung mga tinatanong. Kaya kanina sabi mo, napaka-philosophical nung undertaking, nung pinagmumulan. Siguro mahalagang tingnan natin yung panitikan natin.
I was just teasing you.
That's fine. Gustong-gusto ko yan na hindi madali ang buhay makata, ang buhay na ginugubol sa sining dahil.
Now, by the way, I want to ask this of you, maybe a personal question, because sa tingin ng iba, di ba, yung migration is a negative for the Philippines. Sabi mo nga, malaki yung diaspora community natin, one of the biggest in the world, but you grew up in that system, di ba? Some people would push back and say there are also benefits to us, that we are exposed to the world rather just being parochial in our perspective, and then that somehow enriches us as well, way beyond than what maybe remittances can capture or equate to, right? So where are you in that perspective? Brain gain, or brain drain, or maybe somewhere in between? Ano bang paningin ko? And then maybe more importantly, how the CFO and maybe others in government should work with that reality.
I still see the many potentials in this country that we don't need to work abroad to be able to sustain a decent living. And I think this requires a certain kind of paradigm shift in which we will try to improve our communities. Sometimes it's despairing to see our current situation and the global scenario. But I think this is the timeshare that we must not despair. We must continue to build. We must continue to incarnate hope. And to go back to that question, I would want that we rather develop our resources here, and at the same time support our engagements. We have to develop our mechanism by which we can have students, teachers study abroad, and
then come back and share
share those ideas.
President Marcos says that he wants to make migration a choice rather than a necessity, and I think you're speaking about the same thing, because sa tingin mo sapat na yung opportunity, but of course we have more to do, right? Maybe from your personal perspective, why did you choose
to stay?
Because you had the opportunity to go abroad, di ba?
Gusto ng tatay ko magsiman din ako, pero sabi ko pa, I cannot swim. Ang pobreng anak mo hindi marunong lumangoy dahil pinagbawalan kami bumisita sa irrigation sa mga ilog. So hindi ako pwedeng magsiman. I think I'm in the position where I cannot talk on behalf of other Filipino families.
Just for yourself.
Nandoon ako sa posisyon na kailangan nating itaguyod ang kaayusan ng ating sistema sa gobyerno, sa pamamahala, sa mga patakaran natin, because I think the Philippines has so many potential. Si Gideon Lasco will always have this, the Philippines is not a small country. Ang dami-dami nating potentials na kailangan i-develop natin at tama, hindi necessity kundi choice dapat. At although, excited din ako dahil may bago akong pamangkin na nasa Malta, na nakikita ko rin na doon sa pamilya kung saan kami nanggaling, lumawak din yung hindi na lang dito sa Pilipinas, kundi may kapatid ako sa Abu Dhabi, may kapatid ako sa Malta, at nakikita ko rin yung potential doon, expansion ng ating pagiging Filipino. And that is always, I think, the same situation our heroes like Jose Rizal had to confront when he was trying to see who is the Filipino. And that question has never stopped haunting us.
And speaking of that, because sometimes that's a question we're asked when we reach out to the younger members of the diaspora. What is and who is a Filipino? Diba? And napagsabihan pa kami that in one conversation we had with a professor from the University of Hawaii in Manoa, bakit daw hindi namin pinopromote yung Ilocano literature? Because many of the migrants in Hawaii are Ilocanos, di ba? But this is what's so fascinating to me, that there are layers of being Filipino. There's of course being Bicol, being Waray, being Hiligaynon, being Ilocano, not just, you know, in totality Filipino. There's richness and diversity under that banner. I mean, do you see it the same way, or maybe what can be done maybe to appreciate that richness that we see maybe superficially as Filipino, but underneath there's you know, all of these regional offerings.
Yeah, I think we have to really put a strong investment in terms of doing policies and infrastructures and financial support in the local languages, whether it's literature, visual arts, or cinema. And I think we have to put our attention as well to not just to the regional composition, but more importantly to the island imagination. Yung mga isla natin. Halimbawa yung Catanduanes, yung Masbate, alanganing mga Bicolano yon. Ang reference nila sa amin, mga taga Bicol. Politically, they are part of the Bicol region. Pero you see, a little Philippines exists in Masbate. You have the Hiligaynon side, you have the Cebuano side, you have the Minasbate side, and you have the Bicol side. San Pascual Island speaks Bicolano. So, Babel, no? Isang toring Babel, pero let's not make it crumble. Let this Babel become our Pentecost, some kind of like our diversity is our gift. And ang gandang sabihin nun, kaya kailangan natin na siguro yung mga government agencies like CFO, yung NDTV, mas palakasin pa sa parting yun na yung mga regional identities, pero yung mga island communities sa tingin ko, like Batanes, Romblon, Catanduanes, Bohol, at
ang dami pa.
Ang daming
Well, ito na pagkakataon mo, Christian, because you know, we have to end the program, and as we usually do, we give it to our guests to leave us with some message. Pagkakataon mo na i-request ang mas malaking budget ng CFO. Go ahead.
Sige. When you come to Naga, please visit Savage Mind Bookshop. It's located at 5 Peninsula Street, Mayon Avenue, Tinago, Naga City. The zip code is 4400. And upon entering the bookshop, you will see there a signage very similar to what Dante wrote in his Inferno. In Dante's Inferno, it was written, "Abandon all hopes, all you who enter here." Inside the bookshop, we rephrase Dante. Magrimpos nin paglaom, kamo na digdima dagos. Gather all hopes, all you who enter here.
Very well said. But just to clarify, I'm not that Dante. I'm a different one. Thank you, Christian, for your time. Thank you also for IBC 13 for making this program possible. I am Dante Klink. This has been your Chairman's Report, and we'll see you next week.